All right, welcome back to the Survivor Conquest Podcast. I just want to start off by apologizing because who we had scheduled this week, the great Michael Stallings, that all of you know, apparently forgot about the podcast. But you know what? That's okay because we have somebody even better. Go ahead
We're
and
currently
introduce yourself.
lagging. Oh, he's back. Okay. Oh, he's gone. Oh, he's back. All right. Oscar
Did I
Gillette.
glitch out there?
Yeah, you
Yes.
did. But friend of the pod, Oscar Gillette is here with us today. Oh, we're so grateful to Oscar for coming to our aid in such short notice.
I'm
He
a
really
hero.
is good. And Isaiah has agreed to pay Oscar $5 for appearing here.
Is Isaiah
No,
aware of this?
no, this is news
Oh,
to me.
well. Well, you have $5 to give him. Good luck. Alrighty, so first things, I'm curious, Oscar, I'm sure you have a million and one thoughts about season 50 so far. So give us a quick rundown. How have you been feeling, Peter Parker?
Okay. The season as a whole, like leading up to this, obviously I have all the complaints that most people have. I think there have been a lot of random mechanisms. I especially didn't like the blood moon thing. Um, but I think that the casting department hit a grand slam. Especially with the women. They picked pretty damn close to the exact 12 women I would have picked. And I think for the men, they were aiming more towards the broader casual audience. So I understand the difference between, like, I would have liked to see a Dominic or a Jesse or a Ricard or a Sean Crowley. I could keep going, Chris Dougherty. But I understand why they went the direction they went there. I'm enjoying the season. I think it's really fun to see some of the like. I think the new era has a lot of like self-insert players that I can see myself in, and so seeing them interact with the older players is really fun. Like seeing Rizo and Cirie like be friends, like that's adorable. Like I really enjoy that. And I'm loving seeing Emily interact with every Emily interaction is just beautiful to me. Um, that being said, I hated the Blood Moon twist. Genevieve was totally robbed. Um, but my three favorites, Rizo, Emily, and Cirie, are all still in the game. So that, all in all, I'm pretty happy. And while Stephanie is now confirmed MAGA, apparently, so she's now in the category of like Sierra Easton, Sarah Lacina, where I really don't want to root for them, but I just can't not root for Stephanie LaGrossa. So I've been enjoying all the Stephanie content that we've gotten. I feel like a lot of her Survivor career has been totally cursed. The Guatemala, it was just her bad jury management. Like that's not a curse or anything, but I'm enjoying her getting to have like a peaceful Survivor run.
Yeah, I'm glad you said what you said about the women and the men casting. I've been saying this since the cast was announced that I think they casted a lot more women for their ability to play the game. They casted a lot more men for the character. I think you said you agreed with that take, and I felt so happy when you said you agreed with that take back months ago when I first mentioned it. But going into this episode, it was relatively a standard merge episode content wise, but just all of these returning players, Coach going on an absolute rampage. I thought it was a fun episode. I still think, and I said this last week, that the new season and the new returnee season smell has kind of worn off, and now it's just kind of settled into a season of Survivor for me. But I'm still absolutely loving it. I think it was fun this week. I'm happy that half the cast wasn't immune this episode. I was fully expecting that, so thank God. And good props to Ozzy. Isaiah, what about you? What did you feel?
I thought the episode was kind of predictable. I mean, Dee has been, I think, a quieter player in terms of the edit, and we got a lot of her thoughts at the beginning of the episode. It was very much setting up a Dee downfall narrative. So I'm a bit disappointed that Dee actually went home because I thought it was, like I said, predictable. You know, when Coach was being targeted, I thought, oh, maybe there's a chance that Coach goes home. But to be honest, I think, well, I don't actually know for sure, but I think I speak for everybody on this Zoom call. I think we all like Coach more as a character and would rather see Coach stay in the game. So, really?
I don't know,
Really?
Isaiah. You don't know Oscar as well as
I
you
I
think you
have
do.
always found that there's a particular archetype of Survivor player that the fandom loves, the like wacky person who everyone enjoys to laugh at. I don't find it particularly interesting. I've never enjoyed watching Coach on a season. The only good thing that comes from Coach, and I do think a lot of people like appreciate this about him, is I enjoy every now and then you get a really great someone making fun of Coach. Courtney Yates was a legend at this. And I think Emily has put herself in that role for this season so far. But I would have much rather seen D. I'm more of a GameBot fan. I would have much rather seen D go further in the game than Coach from a fan perspective.
Well,
Though I
so
don't
am
think
I
he was.
actually. Yeah, no, I'm also am the type of fan I just like to watch strategy and gameplay, and that's also what I like about the show. But I feel like Coach is like one of those few exceptions. Like he's Coach, he's iconic, he's a legend. So I don't know. I would
Yeah.
like to see Coach there.
Bending, unyielding.
I mean, for me, obviously, massive Coach fan here. I can understand Oscar's sentiment, though. Like, that's a different way of viewing the game. He's not wrong. I'm not wrong for viewing it. I appreciate Coach's little moments of self-awareness that he hasn't displayed in the past. Not a ton of those this episode. He was mostly just old Coach, but at least he had the self-awareness to acknowledge, I'm going back to the way that we wanted. This is what you guys want. When he was talking to the fans, all those Redditors out there that are screaming, oh my gosh, it's the Dragon Slayer, even though he's not that great of a player. But hey, props to him. He wanted a 7-4. And what was the vote count? It was 7-4-1. Coach is a mastermind.
I think a lot of I got a text from a friend during the episode that, oh my gosh, this is Coach 1.0. I think this is a lot more Coach 3.0 than 1.0. I think we're seeing
Yeah,
South Pacific Coach shine this season.
definitely. I mean, for me, I will echo what Isaiah said. I think this episode kind of felt a bit predictable to me, but I'm also a bit more Edgic versed, and I kind of saw the signs of D going home. That being said, even beyond that, I think the whole Coach going home narrative that they tried to push, just seeing the stuff that the edit had to show, that being at tribal council, it really seemed like that was just puffed up to try and make it a more suspenseful vote, because just by the way D is acting at tribal council, you could tell she knew she was going home, just by her playing the shot in the dark, by her feeling the need to get up and go and try and start a live tribal council. It really felt like it was D's time, so it really seemed like she knew she was gone.
I am sort of the worst Edgic reader of all time. I have whenever I try to view the episode through an interpret the edit lens, I fall into every trap the editors put out. I going into the commercial break before Tribal was thinking, well, based on the edit, I think it's going to be Coach. But then I was like, well, hang on, stop. I know that weakness of myself based on gameplay. Who do I think it's going to be? And I was like, all right, put myself in Rick's shoes, put myself in Christian's shoes, put myself in Cirie's shoes, put myself in Emily's shoes. And I was like, if I were any of these players, the right move here is to vote out D. Now, there was a little motivated reasoning there. I really wanted to convince myself that Coach was going to go home. I really wanted to see D go far this season. I always root for winners on returning seasons, and D is a particular favorite winner of mine from the new era. So I was hoping she would survive. But I did enjoy her fight on the way down. And I thought that her arguing with Coach I think it was Coach at Tribal was really great. Or no, with what was it? Jonathan at Tribal was really great. I was hoping Jonathan was talking about, she was like, I've only told one lie this season. It was to Jonathan. He was like, well, let's bring up the other lies you talked about. I was praying in that moment he was going to bring up Wendell. I thought there was a shot that was going to happen in that moment. If that happened, I would immediately go from Jonathan's biggest hater to a fan. That would have been electric.
Hey, she wasn't the cheater in that situation.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, but I don't disagree. I was kind of interested in Jonathan's whole narrative because you talk about just like the type of players you like to root for, and I think 42 version of Jonathan is not somebody you would root for, Oscar, but I'm curious your take this season because he is somebody that edit wise, he has subverted my expectations going into the season. He talks about wanting to play a different game, and his whole bit this episode with arguing with D, I think we're getting some of the same and some of the new, where he's still trying to be loyal to his core alliance. That hasn't changed about him. But with how he interacts with people outside of that alliance, his maneuvering around them, he seems a bit smarter in that area, which makes him a bit more of an interesting character, but at the same time fairly predictable, where I think the edit is trying to portray him a bit more complex.
I have a running take with returning seasons that no one ever changes. We constantly get a narrative of how this is XYZ player 3.0, 4.0, and how they talk in the first several confessionals about how they're going to be different this season, and then they never, ever live up to that. And I think we're seeing that with Jonathan, but the editors want to tell the story of metamorphosis, so they're going to edit usually in line with that storyline. I'm obviously not still rooting for Jonathan. I don't like him. Um, and for the most part, there's only one of the people he's aligned with that I'm rooting for, like that are in my cohort of players I like. That's Chrissy. While a lot of the people he's aligned against are in the cohort of players that I like. So I'm also just kind of motivated to just want to see him fail.
Wait, so
Well, that
you
makes me. Go
Oh,
ahead.
okay. So I was going to say, you really think there hasn't been at least one instance in a returning player season where there's some kind of like metamorphosis with the player? Every single returning season, you're saying every player was pretty much just about the same.
It's possible you'll bring up an example that'll change my mind, but for the most part, yeah, I stand by
Yeah, I think
Interesting.
it's difficult because I think for me, I would define it as I think for the most part, the core of who every
Sorry,
person.
Parvati changes a lot from 1.0 to 2.0. Sorry, keep going, Kyle.
Okay, that's all good. I was just going to say that I think the core of who people are and their personalities, I think is true, that I really don't see much change there. But I do think people have come in previous seasons and in this season and at least try and in some cases somewhat succeed in playing a different game. And I think that's where I disagree, because I think somebody that is the most prudent example of this is Ozzy this season. It's very clear he's the same Ozzy, but he's trying to be different. And in some ways, he's succeeding. In some ways, he's failing, I
But if
think.
he's trying to be
Is he
different,
trying to be different? He's
I
playing
think he is. No,
his strategy is listen to Cirie and do what Cirie tells me to do. That was his strategy on Micronesia too.
That is
no,
true. I
And,
think the
and, and
one
if you
thing
switch out
that'll,
Cirie for Yule, that was his strategy in Cook Islands. He was never.
that's true.
He is bought into a narrative about himself that he's not even thought about strategy on his prior seasons. And now he's saying, as long as I'm thinking about strategy, it's different. He was thinking about strategy on his prior season. He wasn't particularly good at it, but he utilized it. He was part of I2's maneuvering. He was part of that alliance of five before his blindside blew it up in Micronesia. And he's doing the same thing of being part of a group, participating in their maneuvering, but not really doing much on his own.
Yeah, that's fair. I think sign of real growth would be if he ever shows any inclination that, maybe I can't beat Cirie at the end. If he shows any inclination towards that, I'll consider it game growth for
but do
Ozzy.
you
But
really
if not,
think? But do you really think Ozzy is gonna sit next to Suri at the final three? I
I
um,
don't
don't
think
think
I don't think
Ozzy
he's
will.
blindly loyal to Suri.
I don't
I think
think
he can
Ozzy
cut
will
her.
initiate a move against Cirie. I don't think
yeah,
Ozzy will initiate a move against Cirie, and I don't think Ozzy will go along with a move against Cirie if he feels that his vote matters.
yeah, I would agree with that. So we can go into a bit of the content of this episode. Now I just have to think of some of what actually happened in this episode. It felt like both a lot happened, but also very little happened, because so much of my mind is just, it's just all coach being coach. That felt like it was the entire episode to me,
We
which
got we
really,
got we got the we got the reactions from the Blood Moon. Then we got
yeah,
Stephanie's journey, and then I have a lot of thoughts about Stephanie's journey and the reaction to it afterwards.
All right, then go
Um,
for
yeah,
it. Yeah.
I I was incredibly impressed by Cirie's read on Stephanie there.
same, same.
Um, because a lot of people are perceptive enough to be able to say, "Oh, she's probably lying." And Cirie is perceptive enough to be able to see that. Very few people could maneuver from that situation the way that Cirie did. If I was in Cirie's position, I would not have been able. I probably would have been like, "Yeah, I know you're fucking lying," and then Stephanie would distrust me, and I would know she distrusts me, and then there would be a feud there, or I would just sit on it and not say anything. Cirie's ability to say, "Are you?" I just sort of prod at it until Stephanie eventually says, all right, here's the thing. And then it was a trust building moment between the two of them. And then she then immediately went and used that information as currency to build her relationship with Rizo. That level of gameplay, I hate to build on the Cirie glazing, but that is a level of gameplay of subtlety and social skills and social engineering that there are very, very few Survivor players that could do that in that situation.
No,
I
I agree.
agree. Shut up, Isaiah. I agree. It's impressive. The only thing I push back on is how impressive it was, just because I feel like, I mean, at the end of the day, you can't discredit her because she knows Stephanie going into this season, because that it is a returnee season. These players know each other. That's just a factor in the game. You can't blame Cirie for it. But just in a completely objective, looking just on paper at what happened, I think you can discredit it a little bit just on the grounds that she said herself that she knows Stephanie and she's known Stephanie for 20 years. I think that's a lot of where that read came from, is that she knows Stephanie so well to be able to predict that and to be able to approach it the way that she did, which is just like, are you sure? Are you sure? But absolutely, still all credit to Cirie for having those perceptive abilities to begin with.
That being said, as much as she knows Stephanie, Stephanie also knows Cirie. Cirie voted Stephanie out of Heroes vs. Villains. Cirie murdered Stephanie in Traitors. I didn't watch Snake in the Grass, but from what I understand, Cirie betrayed Stephanie in that as
Oh
well.
yeah, that's right. I forgot they have all that
So,
history.
so for Stephanie, it's watching Cirie being able to get Stephanie to trust her. It feels like the Charlie Brown comic where Lucy's setting up the football and Charlie convincing Charlie Brown to kick at it. Cirie has been on 3 shows with Stephanie and betrayed her in all 3 shows. And Stephanie has let it happen all 3 times. Now, in Heroes vs. Villains, there wasn't much she could do about it anyways. But given that history, I think Cirie was at a huge disadvantage in terms of building a relationship with Stephanie. So I think while that relationship definitely benefited her, there were some ways in which it counteracted.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's true.
Isaiah, what are
Um,
your thoughts on that?
yeah,
Uh,
let's go around the table so Isaiah can talk.
no, something I was gonna bring up about this season that I'm sure all of you have noticed. Nobody can keep their mouth shut on Survivor 50 in the hands of the fans. As soon as somebody shares one thing, it goes to another. So I would not be surprised at all if Stephanie finds out that other people know about her steal vote. I don't think that's gonna stay between Rizzo and Cirie for a very long time. And speaking of Rizzo and Cirie, I would have never guessed that would have been like the power duo of the season. I
I
said it.
loved it.
What do you mean?
I
They
said
have
it
a
before.
pre-game relationship. They met years ago,
Yeah,
okay?
whatever. I said it before. In my opinion, I feel like Cirie and Rizzo are like the best positioned in the game, and I think they're playing the best games like right now during the season. I mean, yeah,
I
Christian has been like the main character, and we've seen him all the time, every episode or whatever, but that doesn't
This was
necessarily
like his
mean
quietest episode
that
so
they're
far,
playing
at
the best.
least.
Yeah, yeah, but um, I was gonna say that doesn't necessarily mean that he's playing the best just because we see him on our TV
Yeah,
screens.
I think
I agree.
he's a bit short-sighted. I think Christian is a bit. Well, I think we have seen a little bit of a term, or we have seen a little bit of a turn in terms of how the fan base is perceiving Christian, where it's kind of turned back around, and now a lot of people are kind of hating on him a little bit more. That being said, I was kind of saying from the beginning, I think he's probably gonna screw himself at the end of the day just because of how likable he is and because he just can't stop himself at the end of the day. It's the same with Rick Devens, although with Rick Devens, I get a bit more of an idea that he's genuinely just out there because he's having a blast and that's his idea of playing a good game.
Well, as long as we don't see him mention Jimmy Fallon, we know he's still gonna be
We
around.
are still waiting for Christian to bring up Jimmy Fallon. Until that happens, we know Christian is safe.
And who meant it was Rick Devens mentioned Mr. Beast?
N-
Um,
okay. In
Rick
the
Devens mentioned Billie
preview,
Eilish,
That's
yeah,
right.
no, in
which
the
we're done with.
preview, you can hear like somebody like reacting to Mr. Beast when he shows up on the island. I'm convinced that's Rizzo. I don't think that's confirmed, but
And you have the musical ear, so
oh, yes, I do. So, yeah. But I was gonna say, I mean, Rizzo also, I feel like is the only I don't know, person I feel like who would really know who Mr. Beast is. Like I think
From
everybody
here.
there is a bit older, so yeah.
Um, a couple things to comment on. The first one is that everything has been getting out this season. I think part of that is the boomerang idol makes that sort of an inevitability. And also like in the new era, it's kind of been the meta to tell people about advantages and idols, unfortunately. Um, and then I think part of that is Kyle, through fandom games, which I don't know how many of your, I assume all of your viewers are in the fandom, but through fandom games,
I have no idea.
I learned eventually from you, Kyle, that if you have a merge of 12 people or more, you're not going to have a plan that doesn't get leaked. So I think part of it is that we've seen such an early merge that everything has been getting out. But Cirie choosing to tell Rizo about the vote, I think Rizo is one of the better people to tell something to if you want it to stay secret. He's not. I think he understands I think he values his relationship with Cirie a lot, which is rational. If Cirie turned on Rizo would kind of be fucked. Like a lot of Rizzo's social game is through like second degree relationships that he has through Cirie. Um, and so I think he's smart enough not to go and rat things out. I think when we say information spreads quickly this season, 95% of that spread has come from one person. My personal favorite, Emily Flippin.
Oh
Um,
God, yeah.
she loves telling people stuff. I think she's got like the somewhere in her brain the like thing that calculates the risk if I do this is quieted, and somewhere that calculates the risk if I don't do this is much louder. So she's constantly telling people things, and I think that has been like she has been a driving force for tons of episodes just because of like one scene of her telling something to someone. Um, I agree that Christian's playing too short-sighted of a game. I think his fatal flaw as a player that he sort of couldn't have done anything about coming into this is that he is so beloved that if he makes it to the end, he's a jury threat. I think he's been freaking out a little too much over small things. And that has cost him the strength of some relationship. I think his relationship with Emily is a lot less strong because he's freaked out over small things. And but I think he kind of has to either go hardcore shield strategy or he has to take a heel turn and be a dick to some people. If he isn't a dick to some people and ruin his social standing within this group, no one's taking him past Final Five. So he has to do a heel turn if he wants to have any win equity.
I feel like the shield strategy would be better for him because if anything, that'll just give people more of a reason to target him. I feel like it's more gonna backfire to be honest.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? I forgot what
I
I
don't
was gonna
know.
say. Kyle,
Okay.
do you have something to say?
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, Oscar. I'm curious because we have had one player who every single
Oh, I know
guest
where this
has
is
had
going.
such strong opinions on, and we have now gone a little bit without them even being mentioned, and that's Aubrey. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on Aubrey.
So I'm very curious. I would love to see the footage. I'd like to see that data, as Cass said, regarding what went down between Aubrey and Genevieve. Um, I, I want to know how that beef happened. I am a huge, as is the case for many in the fandom. I love Genevieve. I really, really like Genevieve. I liked her throughout 47, and then her and Sam and a little bit Andy like permanently won themselves a spot in my heart by doing plurality vote. I love plurality votes. So I was rooting against Aubrey in her beef with Genevieve. And I feel that Aubrey has gotten absurdly lucky throughout this season. I think the way that the swaps have been done favored her ridiculously. I think the fact that Genevieve found two idols and didn't get to use either of them favored Aubrey ridiculously. I think the fact that Aubrey found zero idols and got one, even though it didn't end up being useful for her, benefited Aubrey ridiculously. Well, it did kind of useful for her. It played a role in Rick and Christian not voting her. Though I think they would have not voted for her if she didn't have it in the first place. So I think that Aubrey was in a beef with one of my favorite players, and benefited from bad production twists. But none of that is her fault. If I saw the footage regarding the Genevieve Aubrey beef and I saw how it went down, it's possible that I would come down as an Aubrey hater. but I haven't seen anything to make me dislike Aubrey herself, just the role that Aubrey has played in the season. I think Aubrey has made some errors this season, but I think she is even better than Cirie or Rizo, like an absurdly well positioned player right now, because the two big power groups that I see as relevant and sustainable are the Christian, Rick, Emily, etc. group, them and their bonds, and then the Cirie, Rizo, Ozzy, and their bonds group. And Aubrey is the only player that I see as very well ingratiated within both of those groups without having like an unsustainable threat level
Hey, hey,
for
hey,
no one.
do not discredit the four horsemen,
I was gonna
okay?
say you forgot
They're
about another
another
group.
powerful. They
So
really do.
there's a
I
reason I
don't
added the
disagree with your
qualifier.
take.
There's a reason I added the qualifier of sustainable there.
Yeah.
That alliance will inevitably be targeted at some point in the next couple of episodes.
But I
Yeah,
think
but I
Aubrey
think it's
also.
very true.
No,
Go
I was gonna
ahead.
say I think Aubrey also has like pretty good standing with that group too. I think Aubrey has the potential to be kind of like the most fluid and working with all the groups in the game. So and that
Yeah.
yeah, so in
I
a
th
way she's also really good positioned as well.
yeah, I
My
think
initial
she
winner pick going into the season is out. It was Kamilla, but at this point, if gun to my head, if I had to pick a winner, I'd go Tiffany if I wasn't looking at Edgic. Um, well, no, because she was the only one left out of that vote. Yeah, I might change my mind in the next 5 minutes and interrupt someone to announce it, but I'd probably go with. I could see Rizzo pulling it out, but I'd probably go with Aubrey because Rizzo does have the horseman connection, and he is so well off with Cirie. And I mean, in almost every season Cirie's on, her closest ally wins. So I mean, it's always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Rizzo's well positioned himself to get himself in that spot. I mean, Rizzo's position is very similar to Parvati's at the merge of Micronesia.
Yeah.
Very close to Cirie. Very close to
Do
Ozzy.
you think game aside, the jury this season would award a player like Rizzo? Just looking at it not from his gameplay, but from the fact that he is the youngest person on the cast. This is going to be an older jury, and he's coming from the most recent season. Do you think that's going to be a big factor in him potentially getting discredited?
So I think particularly based on coaches' pregame interviews, I think Rizzo has had a very has was given a an uphill mountain to climb because of the fact that Russell is haunting the narrative, and a lot of people coming into the season equated Rizzo with Russell. Um, I think that it's going to come down to his charm if that happens, and I think that Rizzo does have the charm. He's won over a lot of the older players. Colby won't be on the jury, but Colby loved him eventually. I think his charmingness, his charm, will be the factor to the point where if he gets to the end with a solid resume, I think they'll reward him. The one as for the youngness, as for the like they didn't get to see his season, while I can see how someone would pitch that as an advantage, I think Rizzo has the strength of mind to know that was a disadvantage for him. And I think he's a theatrical guy. I think he could do something like raise your hand if you thought about targeting me more because of that. And I think a significant portion of the jury would raise their hands and he would be able to make a compelling case that it was more of a disadvantage than an advantage.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I feel like Aubrey has been having a lot of negativity around her, mostly because she doesn't seem, well, one, everybody loves Genevieve, and Genevieve fans are very, very aggressive. But on top of that, I got the vibe that just Aubrey didn't seem like she was having fun out there. Like she seemed really sour to be there. This episode, I appreciated Aubrey. She obviously had that blunder immediately, but if you even just look at this as a bottle episode, she has a really good awareness arc where she has that blunder and she turns it around. And I think using this idol, obviously, if she goes home next episode, terrible move. Why'd you use that idol? But I think just looking at it from what we know now, I think that seems like a really good move because of the position she's in afterwards, where now nobody's looking at her. But if she holds that idol one tribal longer, then she's the girl that said she's going to play the idol two tribals. And now everybody's looking at her as a threat. And even beyond that, even if she does play an idol, well, she lied twice about it. That's not just a fumble. That's a strategy. We're going to want to get you out. So,
Hey, Rizzo
That
did it
was
in
such a chat
49.
GPT sentence structure.
Rizzo did
Sorry,
in
keep going.
49. He talked about how he was going to play the idol every single tribal council and never did. But I don't
I
think
have
Aubrey has the charisma to like pull that off. I don't know.
So I have something to say about whether or not Aubrey could do that, and then I also have something to say about Aubrey's arc across her 4 seasons or across her 3 seasons leading up to this. Um, First of all, I think that Rizo being able to do that strategy, that's been like a known idol bluffing has been a known quantity going back to season 14. So I think Rizo being able to do that the way he did on season 49 was, while Rizo displayed a lot of skill in the way that he did it, I think the bigger factor there was the level of competition he was up against. There were a lot of times where I was like, I know that I have information they don't, that these people are just stupid for thinking Rizzo's going to play his idol. Tribal after tribal after tribal. Like when he lied that the idol expired at 6, that's a stupid lie. I do think another factor as to why Aubrey couldn't do it is that Aubrey's gameplay doesn't lend herself to that type of flashy gameplay the way that Rizzo's does, as Isaiah was talking about. And the last one is doing that from 10, because it was a 10-person tribal at the merge, is a lot less of a lift than doing that from 14. Because eventually that's going to run out, and once it does, you've got a target on your back. So I think Aubrey was right to just play it and get the stench. Get rid of the stench. That being said, I also think she was right to lie that she was going to play it the first time, because if they voted for her and she had to play the idol to survive, then like if she blindsided them with it, then that would put a target on her back. She successfully played an idol, and that would raise her threat level a certain amount. As for the thing I want to say about Aubrey's broader history on Survivor, coming into the season, she was one of the people that I was very excited to see, because while I ended up rooting against her pretty quickly because my love for Genevieve wins out, but Aubrey was co-wrong. Aubrey's first season was the first season I ever watched. I rooted for Aubrey from episode 1 of co-wrong, and obviously I was not very active on the internet, but I now know that on the internet there became a very, very toxic divide between the Aubrey fans and the Michelle fans. And then in Aubrey's return on Game Changers and on Edge of Extinction, she kind of flopped, and it disappointed me both times. And I think that then Michelle doing so well on Winners at War, apparently, even though she voted wrong most of the time, has led to this sort of like everyone shitting on Aubrey so much, like for the crimes of her fans. Like people overcorrected by the fact that like, oh, Michelle actually was a good winner. Let's all be mean to Aubrey now. And I think the internet has really, really underrated Aubrey's legacy as a player. So I'm happy to see Aubrey go far, and I will be happy to see Aubrey if she pulls off any impressive maneuvers. But I stand by that her being so well positioned is more a product of her having been fortunate this season so far than having been well played, which is the same thing that I say about Michelle and Go Wrong. So, maybe it's a full circle moment. Her bad luck in Go Wrong has come back in the form of good luck this time on season 3.
Now, I am curious. Did either of you notice that Coach was doing some haikus this episode?
Many of them were incorrect.
Yeah, I know. I think the first one was like 685 or something. It was something like that.
Yeah, the syllable counts were not always accurate, but I thought it was hilarious, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed Emily making fun of the haikus.
I just loved Coach. Just seemed like an excited kid, like calling over. He seems like he's really trying to fit in with like who he perceives as the cool kids, which is just Jonathan, because Jonathan's young and buff. That's kind of the vibe. And I love Coach, and I like his little moments of self-awareness, but I also love the complete glazed eye or eyes glazed over Coach. That's just a madman trying to dictate a vote and saying he's dictating a vote while everyone's mocking him behind his back. And he's got the feathers back in his head. I love Coach this season. One person I will say this. Yeah, it was back this episode, and it was back last episode, I believe, as well. But one player that I was not very interested in seeing coming back, and then loved them in a way, and now they're just kind of is Joe. Joe was the only player this episode that got no confessionals. He's close. Chrissy only got one, and props to Tiffany. Chrissy is now the least viewed player this season. She only has 8 confessionals to Tiffany's 11.
I wonder how Twitter will respond to that.
Not
Not
well,
well.
presumably not well.
because they
And
because they might not care because they don't like Chrissy anyways. So it might, sorry, keep going.
yeah. But Joe, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how your thoughts were, Oscar, but I loved Joe in his unique role in this season as this roadblock that these more schemy type players had to get over, that they had to work around him. And he's just this boulder that sits there, and you have to tell him, but you don't want to lie to him because that boulder is going to be there tomorrow and it might crush you tomorrow. And that's going to suck because you know you're better than the stupid boulder. Why do you have to get beat by that goddamn boulder? And then he's just kind of gone quiet since that episode with Devons. And I think he seems like just such a coach lackey that it's just, honestly, I'm a little disappointed because I think he's just fallen behind coach because coach fills the same void or fills the same space that Joe would. But coach is better in confessionals and he's more entertaining to show. I'm a little disappointed. I'm not expecting anything from Joe this season. I think Joe is going to be either booted in an episode before Coach's downfall as this big blindside, and he's gonna just be like this really like cat like just kind of a nothing presence for the rest of the season, or he's gonna be our zero vote finalist. That is really what I'm feeling for Joe here. I think he could go far, or he's gonna be the product of a big blindside, and they're not giving him an edit because they don't want people to be purely pissed off that he goes home.
Joe seems like a lovely person in the real world. Preface with that. In 48, I didn't find him entertaining, as is the case with most of the fandom. I wasn't excited to see him on 50. And I do understand what you're getting at as to how his presence makes other players' arcs more interesting. But I very much have the philosophy of like returnee seasons where I want you to bring back, like, I want you to view it the way as like a sport. Like, this is the playoffs. Bring back the actually best players, because I think it's very interesting when you put people who are all good at the game against each other. They build and create iterations of iterations and create this really, really complex and beautiful gameplay. I think in Winners at War in the early merge, we got that, but it didn't end up, it was too complex to edit down. So it didn't end up making the episodes, unfortunately. But we have 90-minute episodes now. I would have loved to have seen that. So that for those reasons, I sort of never really find too compelling to like, this is a simpler player that we're putting on the season. Not calling it not simple as in stupid, but simple as in his philosophy of the game is simple. He's stupid. But I think we're probably going to see Coach go before Joe. And then it's going to be a scramble, a mad dash for many of the people within the Cirie, Ozzy, Rizo, Christian, Rick, Emily, and their affiliates to see who can get Joe as their lackey, because he's going to be someone's number two, and it's a social game test to see who can win over Joe as a number two. And I'm trying to run through players in my head to see who has the capacity to do that. I don't think Rizzo's going to be able to do that. Obviously, Rick Devens and Christian cannot do that. I don't think
I see.
Emily can.
I see Cirie. I think that's the easy answer, but I really see Cirie doing that.
Chrissy, Cirie, Ozzy, and Aubrey all pop into my head as people who do that. Aubrey displayed in Korong her ability to sort of work with those rigid older men named Joe. So I think it might go that way, but I do see Chrissy, Aubrey, Ozzy, and Cirie as the one, which to me means that he's going to align once the Horseman group, the Zoom group, the Honor and Integrity group, whatever you want to call it.
By the way,
once that ship sinks, which it's going to, I think Joe will survive that, and I think he will end up on the Cirie, Ozzy, Rizzo side and not on the Christian, Rick, Emily side.
By the way, is this not the second Four Horsemen Alliance? Wasn't that in Fiji? I can't remember exactly, but yeah,
there was a Four Horsemen in Fiji. It was like Mookie. Yeah, it was the people that we root against that were like not fun to watch.
It was Mookie, Edgardo. Was it Dreams? Was Dreams in that?
Was officially part of it, but he never like voted with them.
Yeah, Isaiah, what are your thoughts? You've been sitting too quietly, looking like a statue.
Well,
You've rebooted.
I was going to talk more a bit about Joe because I get what Oscar was saying. Like, yeah, you want the best of the best for an All-Stars returning season, but I don't think Joe played that bad of a game, but
It's fair.
maybe it appeared that way given the circumstances with the group of people he was playing with, because that was the whole theme of the season, the honor, integrity, whatever. And I don't really think that's gonna fly this time around, even though we do see a faction that is playing that way. Um, and also just given the whole like, because the thing about Survivor too, I like people also enjoy watching the show because of like character moments and things like that. And with the whole moment with like Joe and Eva or whatever, I think objectively
Yeah.
speaking, Joe was the right pick. Or if they only had to pick one person from 48, I feel like Joe objectively was the pick that they should have picked for 48. Um,
I'm open to
so
that. I do
yeah.
stand by Kyle and Kamilla being more interesting characters, and I would love to see Shaki return, by the way. But I stand by that. I may have underrated how well Joe played. I mean, he had win equity. If Final Tribal went differently, I could see Joe winning. Yada yada yada.
That's on his season, but I don't know. I was interested in Joe when he first started because he said that he wanted to be like more conscious of the Kyles and the Camillas, and he wanted to play a bit different. And that's what he was saying in the preseason. But like Oscar was saying, like Joe didn't change. I think I know you're a bit more pessimistic on Jonathan, Oscar, but I think Jonathan is what Joe thought he was going to be, or maybe not even that. Maybe Joe, in saying that he wanted to take or wanted to be more conscious of Kyle and Kamilla, it's strictly that he just wanted to be more conscious of being duped and used, and that's why he's gravitating towards the coaches and the Jonathans, and I guess the Chrissies if she's kind of included in that group, or I guess the Rizzos, Rizzo since he's in that foursome now. I
I
love
mean,
Rizzo's confessional about that, by the way.
I was gonna say though, is there really an opportunity to show that Joe has changed? Because I don't really think, at least from what the edit is showing, I don't think there's any notable person that's like constantly duping him throughout the course of the
No.
season right now.
I think he diagnosed his flaw as a player is that he was easily fooled by the mischievous Kyle and Kamilla. I think his flaw as a player was more that he was rigid in his alliances and he didn't play a more fluid game. Which part of that is you're going to play with the culture of the season that you're in, and that was a more rigid season, partially because of him. And he has continued, in my view, to be sort of my camera keeps blurring, rigid in his alliances. It may be unfair to say that he hasn't had a lot of opportunities to shake things up. Um,
That being said, I
um,
don't think he would if he was given the opportunity.
I stand by my Survivor stance that no one ever changes. So I don't think he's gonna magically become like an extremely fluid player overnight.
Yeah, no. I mean, of that Horseman or Honor and Integrity group, it's pretty clear Edgic wise, Jonathan is the one that is actually supposed to be a complex character. Coach has moments of self-awareness, but he's still coach. And Joe is just a background member that represents the idea of honor and integrity. Jonathan is the one that's given the content of substance that backs up that he's trying to play a different game and he's being a bit more complex. Whether or not that's actually how the game plays out and he does show like a bit more agency. Like I'm all for Jonathan going off and being a bit more or being a bit more deceptive. And I think you do see a little bit of that. He hasn't directly said it, but you do see a little bit of that in the way that he's able to joke about coach with the other players where I don't know that people would do that with Joe. I get the vibe, but Jonathan, he's a more conscious of coach's perception and he's more willing to dog on coach in a way that I don't know that Joe necessarily would. And I think we just see a bit more agency with him. But even still, I'm of the opinion that Jonathan was a smarter player than he was given credit for in 42. So I think on Oscar's topic of him not having changed that much, I think that's true. I think I've come around. Yeah, thinking about it, he was just smarter in 42 than the edit gave him credit for. I think the pre-merge, and I've said this a few times already in these podcast episodes, the pre-merge of 42 shines a much better light on Jonathan than the post-merge of 42 because in the pre-merge, he was given the content necessary to be seen as complex, where he's more of like this gentle giant type figure. He knows he knows his own perception of how people are going to look at him, and he's trying to counteract it, where he's not going to scream at Marianne, despite how insanely annoying Marianne is to live with. And yeah, I do think that that just kind of went away in the edit in the latter half of 42. And I think we're probably getting the same version of Jonathan this season. It's just that the edit is more willing to show that complexity compared to 42.
Yeah. On that note, I was waiting for the like more explicit challenge on, oh well, Jonathan changed. Because I was going to make the argument that I think that he played a strategic game on 42. I will say that in the Jonathan Marianne's arguments in the pre-merge of 42, I was firmly on Marianne's side. I do not think Marianne was being annoying to live with there. However, like when you look like Jonathan, like you have the fucking just massive body, you're going to be, even if you get a strategic edit, you're going to be perceived as like, this guy is a one-dimensional comp beast. But he did play a strategic game on season 42. I don't think he played the best strategic game on season 42. I think Omar and Marianne played better strategic games than him. But he was active and he was being an agent in the game. And I think he's similarly on this season playing a strategic game, not best one.
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, we found our happy medium. Isaiah, where do you stand?
I was gonna say I think I should watch like 42 again because I don't remember Jonathan being that strategic. Like I honestly don't. I kind of remember him being that, yeah, one-dimensional, physical, like archetype type player. And
I think
honestly,
it devolved into that in the post merge, from what I recall. I've seen the season once, so
I've
don't
also seen
don't
it
hold a
once,
knife
like
to my head or anything.
years ago, so I don't really remember. Like I thought Jonathan was, well, I guess maybe this doesn't mean necessarily he's changing all that much as a player, but to me, he comes across as being more strategic and more intentional when it comes to strategy. So I don't know.
Yeah. Although I am curious, like, I don't know. I mean, maybe there's just like more to that confessional that we didn't see, but I wasn't 100% set on the logic of riling up D in the way, because I mean, evidently it worked. And we even saw in D's closing confessional, she says, my mistake was allowing Jonathan to rile me up. So she was aware of that. But I don't know, I just didn't see like the real intent behind it right in the moment of riling up D. But I also think there's 14 people on this beach. They're filming 24 hours a day. There's so much we didn't see to where I'm happy to say that there's just context I don't have, but I can piece enough of it together to where I can understand how it came to be.
It's interesting that they showed those two comments. It seems like it frames the move as being Jonathan's in a way where it might not have entirely been, or maybe like the fact that they chose to include that really does give Jonathan a lot of credit. Where I have a hard time ever believing like that the I'm gonna rile this person up as strategy ever really works. I know my brain is shooting to Brian Corridon trying to do it to Jamie on Survivor Guatemala. That's the
I
only
bring mine to Mike Gabler with Ellie, but he didn't rile her up. He was just like, by throwing out her name, I'm throwing out her name. That's the only thing I thought of there.
Like I'm not compelled with the actual like theory of change that strategy from Jonathan led to D going home, but the fact that they chose to tell that story suggests to me, as Kyle is saying, like, yeah, well, I'm like, I bat zero when I guess at Edgic interpretations, but it does seem to suggest to me that he'll go far.
Yeah, which I think he could be. There's something called the growth edit in Survivor, very common archetype. That could be Jonathan this season, where he wants to grow into a better player, and how maybe he goes out and fucking fire making again. Like I could very easily see that kind of just being his narrative, where first time I went out, but I couldn't be proud of the game I played. But this time I'm leaving the game knowing that I did my best. Something like that.
I would. Last time I did this podcast, you guys asked for a big guess, like a big.
Oh, wait.
You're going
Save
to
that thought.
you're going
We
to be
can do
doing
that.
one again.
Yes, we always do that. So
Okay, it has to do with what you just said. It has because I've been debating ever since I got the text like an hour ago about replacing Stallings, the unreliable, constant betrayer of plans.
Yeah. Which, by
Um,
the way, you have to answer for Stallings' draft picks at the end of this podcast. We're going to go over the draft that he did, and that's your team. You have to answer for him.
yeah, Stallings is
okay,
the
all right.
voice of the
But
people.
I've been debating between two takes, so I'm gonna do both of them, and I don't care how that affects your format.
Oh, it's okay. We don't care. It's a
That's
very
fine.
serious. Trust me. You
Um,
cannot do that.
One thing I do want to talk about because Oscar said he doesn't like random mechanisms, and I feel like a lot of the crazy twists this seasons are gonna be like random mechanisms, just a way to get rid of people. We saw in the preview for the next episode, there's another twist that apparently the fans
Wow.
voted for. Um,
We voted for this. We voted for Stephanie to hold her arm up for an hour and get a steal a vote. A very dynamic advantage. Same as a block a vote, same as the blood moon. All very dynamic, I must say.
well, the Blood Moon twist wasn't a part of the
Oh,
advantage
right. Yeah, sorry, that's the
thing.
twist. We
That
must have
was part of
voted
the
for a lot of
twist
twists if we're
vote.
getting two in a row.
So I
Wait,
know
no, this is three episodes in a row.
Kyle
We've
and
gotten
I
a twist because we
already
have the
kind of
double.
talked
Shut up.
about what that twist is
Isaiah's the
going to
one
be.
talking. You interrupted him.
I
Well,
wanted to speak more.
okay. Well, what do you have to say?
I forgot. You go ahead.
Oh, what the hell? Okay, no. So Kyle and I already talked about how like the twist is apparently well, he thinks the twist is going to be like in the new era. It's like they go into pairs or whatever, and it's like the bottom three pairs or something like that. They all lose their votes. I think they did that in 47, and then they go on a journey to try to get the vote back or something stupid like that.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's from looking at what the challenge was in the background. It seems like it's probably that. That would be my guess. But consider that my basic prediction for this episode.
well, I
We'll
don't.
circle back to that.
But the thing is, we still kind of have to do the math because I think D was voted out on day, was it 15 or 16?
15.
So they have
15.
11 days to get rid of uh 10 people. I
I feel like they do a double and it's not that bad. Am I thinking wrong? Like they'll split into two groups either next episode or at final 10. I think that's probably what we'll see. And then I don't know. I'd need to figure out the math in my head, but I'd need a pen and paper and to write it down in front of me to have my small mind grasp it. But I think that probably works out fine to have 10 days, 11 people, but you do one double.
yeah, it does mathematically. I thought they were gonna have to do more doubles than that to keep up with the pace, but I guess not. They could do it that way. I don't know. So I guess I was gonna ask
I
Oscar, what do you think about all that?
so as you rightly pointed out, I am a lifelong hater of random mechanisms in any game in any context. Those viewers who don't know, I hosted an online game called Keys to Power for many years. I would forbid players from using random mechanisms on their end to make decisions, though I'm aware that some people did it without me now. Um, no random mechanisms would be what I would say. And this season has a lot of random mechanisms, but I have a philosophy, and that is that I will forgive whatever stupid twists you want to do in the pre-merge. I will forgive whatever stupid twists you want to do in any round except for these three. I want a normal, traditional Final 13, Final 12, and Final 9. Because those are for 12 and 9, it is because there's a history of those two being very entertaining tribals. And for 13, it is because I've always wanted to see a plurality vote at 13. We've never seen it without like planned vote splits that went according to plan where a majority of players were happy with the outcome. We've never seen a plurality vote at Final 13. I've lost many online games trying to force a plurality vote at Final 14. Kyle does remember I voted out Cirie successfully with a plurality vote at 13.
I did too. I voted him out
A
too.
plurality vote.
I'm sorry. Did I cut out? Yeah, I voted
Your
him out
vote,
too. That was a
yeah,
successful move on my
your
part.
vote got stolen. You didn't want it. But I really like. We came very close in Cambodia. If Keith was flipped, we would have seen a plurality vote instead of Cass going home. But so I would really like to see a normal vote next week because that is the final 13, and I think because we have these sort of three factions, and I think that the leaders of the dominating group that won this episode have a lot of hubris, Coach namely. I think that the ingredients are all there to pull off like a 5-4-4 next episode. And if that happens, I will forgive Jeff for the Blood Moon. I will forgive Jeff for Shot in the Dark being included in the season. I will not forgive Jeff for Shot in the Dark being included in the other seasons that it's been included in. And I will be happy with whatever Mr. Beast does. If we get a normal final 13, a normal final 12, and for the love of God, a normal final 9, that's the best episode.
Yeah, they are always really good. Well, Oscar, I hate to break it to you, but ain't no fucking shot you're getting that. I am curious though. You mentioned the idea of like the group with a lot of hubris, the honor and integrity group going out. This is not part of the official predictions section for this, but how would you guess that next round goes? Because I have an idea in my mind, and it's not seeing an honor and integrity group person go.
Yeah, so this is assuming that it's a normal vote. I do think that if everyone plays the way that I would expect them to play, I think that the Cirie, Rizo, yada 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 group will continue. I think that it's in everyone's interest, except for Coach and the Honor and Integrity group, to let the Honor and Integrity group steamroll for at least 2 more episodes. Because as long as they're not coming after you or your close faction members, it helps to let someone else take a credit for a move and lay low and take out someone who's not one of your friends. So if Coach wants to go after Tiffany, I think it makes sense for everyone except Aubrey, because Aubrey has a very close relationship with Tiffany to or at least she did in the pre-swap, who knows, or in the first swap, who knows how legitimate that still is. So I think it would make sense for the steamroll to continue. If Aubrey manages to save Tiffany, then it's vintage co-wrong Aubrey. The Aubrey we've seen this season so far, I don't think has the capacity to save Tiffany. So I think we would likely see Tiffany go. Or we might just see another straggler who's not in any of the 3 main factions go. Sort of like what we saw in the early merge of Cambodia, where it just makes sense to let someone sticking their neck out trying to lead as long as they're not taking you or your close allies out.
Yeah, I would say that I agree. I do not see honor and integrity getting flipped on just because to me, that is not threatening in the slightest. I see them as they're a problem for another day. So long as they don't outnumber you, you're fine. It's better to dismantle the more dynamic trios or other groups far sooner than the random dumbasses that are preaching honor and integrity. And at the end of the day, there's only 3 of them, and I have half the mind to say that Jonathan's a bit smarter than to actually go with them to the end.
I would say that group has 5 people if you include.
Oh yeah, so I'm just thinking I'm thinking the Horsemen, but I'm not counting Rizo. But I do, yeah. What Stephanie and Chrissy with them?
Stephanie and Chrissy, yeah.
Yeah.
That being
I
said,
think they're both smarter.
If the Honor and Integrity group tries to use their super coalition to split the vote, they're going to have a really hard time picking another target to split the vote on that doesn't then piss off that person's allies and lead to the coalition crumbling. Because while Tiffany really only has 1 ally that I think would go to bat for her, everyone else outside the Honor and Integrity group has a critical mass of allies that would go to bat for them that would give enough numbers for a plurality vote. Like who else would they go for outside of Tiffany? If the majority of the votes go on Tiffany, but they want to split the vote, who do they put the next group on?
Yeah.
There's no answer that doesn't lead to a coalition of 5 standing against honor and integrity, and potentially, it's like Luke in the Star Wars first episode 4. He has to shoot the shot just right. He has to use the Force, but if that group of 5 plays their cards right, it will form and it will pull off a 5-4-4. And if that happens, it will be, in the words of Rizo, absolute cinema.
Yeah. I will say, I mean, Isaiah is welcome to talk at any point if he wants to open his mouth. But I will just say that kind of like sparked a vision in my mind, and that I'm really viewing the game. Obviously, we know who the groups are, but just something clicked in me that I really feel like Aubrey's stock is way, way up. I feel really good about Aubrey's chances because she's not in a trio. She's not with Rizo. Well, admittedly, I don't think the Rizo Ozzy Cirie is super well known right now, but should it be identified, that's a really known trio. Obviously, Emily, Christian, Devins are a really known trio. Then you have Honor and Integrity. Tiffany's kind of on her own, but then that just kind of leaves Aubrey as the most fluid player in the game, which maybe if they're smart, they recognize that and that makes her the biggest threat. But I feel like that's far less likely than them falsely recognizing Cirie and Rizo as being the ones in that position, when in reality, they're actually just in one of the trios themselves. So I feel like Aubrey, just seeing all of these pieces come together, Aubrey is so fucking well set up. And honestly, after this episode, seeing her kind of come into her own a little bit, I think she's so fucking well set up and she's going to have the ability to execute on it.
I was gonna
Aubrey is,
say,
sorry, go
yeah, no,
Isaiah.
I was gonna say, I believe I made that point earlier that she was like the potential to be the most fluid player in the game. From an Edgic point of view, though, I'm like waiting, which I think we are gonna get it. I'm waiting for her like the climax for her to like her or like her growth, the beginning of her growth
Sorry, you're
arc.
waiting for
Because
Aubrey to climax?
no, what the heck? No.
Your words, buddy.
No.
I get what
I
you're
said I
saying,
was
though.
like
I
waiting
think,
for the climax of like, like her storyline or whatever, her the turning point.
well, it
Because
was, I think the turning point I think this episode was the first half of the turning point because you can view her entire saga with Genevieve as one specific arc, and then it turns over in this episode. This is the first half, and then the second, excuse me, the second part will complete that climax. Aubrey Bracco will climax in episode
All right,
7.
let's chill.
And
no, because
I'm sorry, Aubrey.
even with this most recent episode, like towards the beginning, she kind of got crapped on. I feel like she has gotten crapped on to a certain extent every single episode so far. So I'm just waiting for that narrative to kind of change.
So while I admit I'm bad at Edgic, I do know that a classic Edgic example that is given on from Survivor YouTubers is Mike Holloway eating the crab or whatever, and they could have made fun of him really ruthlessly for that. And the fact that they didn't make fun of
Mhm.
him more ruthlessly for that was evidence that he was going to win. I think they could have gone in on Aubrey for the idol a lot harder. I think that there was probably some really brutal content making fun of Aubrey for claiming she forgot to play her idol. And the fact that did not make it into the final cut to me suggests that they're trying to portray a positive narrative for Aubrey.
Well,
Especially even just Aubrey being given the opportunity to self-reflect on that is a huge sign for her. She's given the opportunity to speak her voice. She's the one that gets the final word in that situation where she has that self-awareness, and that's a really big thing.
well, yeah, that's a good point. I was no, because I was gonna say too, like people, they did show people responding so negatively towards her doing that, and I think if Aubrey wins this season, that'll be a very interesting edit because I can't think of an era like a not I was gonna say new era, but just a winner in general in recent memory that has been like so shown like in a negative light in several episodes.
I
Because they
could
typically try to
kind
protect
of
the winner.
That's true.
I could kind of say, because this is just the
Name
first
names.
person that came to mind. I was gonna say Rachel from 47 because she did get bamboozled in the pre-merge and then it turns around in the merge. But I think it was more so just in the latter half of the pre-merge where she has that Annika boot and then it kind of almost immediately turns around for her. Whereas Aubrey was much more consistently dunked on in the pre-merge. But that is just like kind of a rough outline for something that I could make the comparison to.
It feels to me that the fact that they got, based on what Genevieve said in her post-game press, the extent of the Genevieve Aubrey fight, I think anyone who's even just watched the episodes can tell that the extent of the Genevieve Aubrey fight was probably a lot bigger than made the screen. Just based on the fact that none of us know why they don't like each other. So the fact that they limited the extent that that would be shown in the episodes, knowing that Genevieve is such a popular player, feels like a protect Aubrey's reputation. However,
I can see that.
I agree with Isaiah. It feels to me like it could easily be a decoy edit because they've positioned her in a way that has successfully gotten a huge portion of the fan base to root against her. And they've made her look negative. Or at least they've told stories of her that make her look negative. So I could see it being a decoy edit. But given my instinct to ignore my Edgic interpretations that are always wrong and rely on my gameplay interpretations that are usually right, Aubrey seems the most well positioned.
Yeah, I think so. Beyond that, I think we've actually pretty well covered our bases. I mean, I guess we could talk about Stephanie getting, just like the actual content of the episode, she gets a steal vote. Very dynamic. Oh boy.
It was
I don't know if there's
whatever.
anything to add to that.
I'm also going to say, as for Aubrey being in with every group but not in any group, I think in a two-sided war season, we know I love a two-sided war season. I think that's a very vulnerable position to be in. I think that's a bad position to be in. But I think since this season is clearly shaping up to be a three-sided war, that is a beautiful spot to be in.
Yeah, especially considering from what we've seen, like Christian, Devon's, Emily are the ones being identified as the people in the middle. And that's not really the case.
I think when they said that they were identifying Dee and Tiffany as a side, I think that's been destroyed to the point that we don't even view that as a side anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that reflects to me that Cirie, Rizo, and Ozzy are closer with honor and integrity than Christian and Devins and Emily are. Because
Yeah,
Cirie, Rizo, and Ozzy were presumed as they're in on the vote, whereas Christian and Devins were, they have to be in the middle. We don't trust them fully.
Yeah, I mean, content aside, just with whatever this twist is going to be, I could really see the narrative taking hold just with where the pieces lie right now, that things turn around and we see one of Devon's, Christian, or Emily go this episode, next episode.
Mm-hmm. Which makes me think it's very possible that we haven't seen anything from the idol hidden at tribal by Rick Devens. We haven't seen that in a while. I think it's very possible that comes out in the next episode or in the next couple episodes.
I think it's going to
Definitely.
amount to something for sure, because why would they show it if it doesn't? So
Yeah,
I'll be honest, like,
I am looking forward to knowing at the beginning of the episode that it's going to be something when they include it in the recap, because that will be the most obvious giveaway of all time.
yeah, or it'll be like having an opening confessional about it or something.
Yes, yeah.
One thing I feel like actually we kind of glazed over a little bit was Dee. She goes home this episode 7 to 4 to 1. I know we talked a little bit about her, but I mean, last winter standing, Isaiah and I were talking about this a little bit before we went on air, but she joins a relatively elite circle of winners that make the merge or make the jury on a season that's not all winners. She joins the or she joins JT, Parvati, and Sandra from HVV, Aris and Tina from
blood versus water.
Blood versus Water. And was that it? I
I
think
think
that
that's
might have
it.
been.
I think that's it. Yeah.
No,
Yeah, I think that was it.
No game change.
No, they all
No
went
game
home to
changers.
merge.
Admittedly, I don't know how many other seasons even there were that
I
had
think
winners
that's
on
it
them.
because Karamoan and well, both fans versus favorites didn't have any
All
winners.
stars, but that there was an outside factor that prevented it in all stars.
Yeah, that's
Generally.
true.
I think the fact that Dee did it on a season where Jenna Lewis was present is very impressive.
Yeah, exactly.
Question though, well, I this is my opinion. Well, I always thought D was the best player of the new era and the best new era winner. Do you guys still think that is the case after tonight?
That view is affirmed even more in my mind by this season. I don't think that it is as far and away the best new era winner. Like I don't think like I've never thought that there's like a mountain that D's on the top of, and then you go down a ton and you have the rest of the winners. I think it's close, but I think I thought D was the best new era winner going into the season, and I am more confident in that belief now. I was very impressed by her gameplay throughout the season.
I always thought that D and like Kyle were kind of like a step above everybody else. In my opinion, is like just slightly better than Kyle. And the reason why I asked too is because like we didn't really get to see Kyle play, but what we did see was really good. Like it seemed like Kyle
Yeah,
was in a really good position and was meant to go, well, not meant to go pretty far because it's still pretty early, but he was very solid in his original tribe. So
he shouldn't have broke his Achilles. That's on him.
Strategic decision.
He made a choice to go back down that wall to help Colby out. That is a selfless
Exactly.
choice. You need to be heartless on Survivor.
And think about this. If he doesn't do that, guess what? They lose the challenge most likely. And guess who goes home?
Aubrey goes home.
Aubrey, who's probably in the best position.
Yeah, yeah.
Man, Kyle, don't help your elders cross the street, kids. It's a bad idea.
I wouldn't be
Colby
All
would
right.
probably still
surprised
be
to
in the
see
game.
Kyle play again. I feel like they'd ask him back for sure.
Yeah, I
Kyle's a
think we could see
lock.
Kyle.
Kyle is a lock to return. That being said, one of the new era winners, two new era winners who I think should be, three new era winners who I think should be seen as in that tier with D and Kyle. And I think most of them I'd put above Kyle are Jam Jam, Kenzie, and Erica.
Okay, that's interesting.
Now,
You put
now,
Kenzie that high.
I agree with Erica. She should be held in the same regard. I did not see 46 and I did not care about 44, so I cannot properly comment, but all I can
I
say is
saw
public opinion
46.
is not
I don't
there.
think Kenzie should be that high. I'm actually curious to like hear you defend that. Why do you think Kenzie's
before we get into Kenzie, is there consensus that Erica deserves to be there?
Yes.
I agree.
I think
Okay.
Erica's very
For
underrated.
those
Yeah.
viewers who disagree, Erica got so fucked over by the edit. More than Natalie White, legendarily fucked over by the edit. And if you go and listen to interviews, Erica ran that fucking season. Okay. Now that there's consensus on Erica, you can attack me on Kenzie and I'll defend
Well, I just want to know why you think Kenzie is so high.
it. Kenzie is the greatest social player, at least of the new era. In my view, the greatest social player of the Fiji era. No, that is one of the most volatile seasons filled with characters who were constantly mad at someone, constantly changing up who they were mad at. Just the most wacky, odd cast. It was a Gabon level odd cast of characters. And there is never a moment where anyone's mad at Kenzie. That is an unbelievable feat. And everyone trusted and liked Kenzie. I'll admit, I do think she played a good strategic game. I don't think she played a mastermind Magnus Carlsen strategic game. But that level of social intelligence and emotional intelligence is something that we have never seen on Survivor.
But I feel like Charlie also played a really good social game as well. Because the thing is, the whole argument was social versus strategic, but it wasn't that Charlie's social game was bad. It was very good, in my opinion.
So I think oftentimes they played a good social game is like a cop out argument that justifies jurors being bitter. So I want to pause and say I recognize that and I understand there's going to be people who in the audience who perceive this argument that way. Charlie's social game was good enough. He checked the box of he had a social game. And I think Kenzie kind of does the same thing with strategic games. He checks the box of having a strategic game. I think both of them have a good enough, decent game at the other person's specialty. That being said, I think Charlie's strategic game was great. I think Kenzie's social game was fucking legendary, best we've ever seen. So with that in mind, my view goes towards Kenzie having played this phenomenal.
Really, that's interesting because in my opinion, I feel like what Charlie did strategically trumps what Kenzie did socially. I feel like and his specialty was stronger than her specialty. Because the thing is, social and strategic go hand in hand, right? And if you have such a good social game, I feel like you have a lot of sway in terms of getting what you want strategically. And I can't really think of a moment where Kenzie really drived anything and was the leader of something, and she used her social ability to get her way. Maybe she did once or twice, but Charlie, I think, did it several times throughout the season.
I think a lot of the times where someone went home idle in pocket that season, the reason why that was able to happen was because they got reassurance from Kenzie. I don't think Charlie had the capacity to convince those people to go home idle in pocket. I'll admit, a lot of times Charlie was the one putting together those votes, but Kenzie was the person who that person had faith in the fake plan through. Also, I'll ask this: had Charlie won the season, had Maria voted for Charlie, and then Ben cast the tie-breaking vote for Charlie, which I think he would have, where would you rank Charlie's game? Assuming the edit doesn't change, where would you rank Charlie's game?
Like compared to like the other winners, or just
New
like
era, compared to new era winners.
I'd probably put Charlie. So in my opinion, D's number one. Like even if Charlie wins, I think D's number one. I would put Charlie either because in my mind Kyle's two. I'd put Charlie either below. Well, oh, I forgot about Erica.
So it's
Mm,
not that good of a strategic game then, is what
no,
I'm
no,
saying.
he's top half. No, no, I think in my opinion, no, I think he's top half. I'm gonna say three. I'm gonna say three. So I'm gonna say it would have been D, Kyle, Charlie, Erica, Jam. Who am I missing? And then the other ones. I don't know.
Can I ask a question from an outside perspective?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm curious. This is to Oscar, but obviously, Isaiah, you can provide commentary
Isaiah,
afterwards.
you have to shut up
So
on this.
you say that Kenzie is this like god tier level social player, one of the best of all time. I would say that just from how it's being described to me right now, I could posit the counter argument that it would be easier to seem that way on a season of such abrasive personalities because being a
That's a good point.
relatively adequate social player could make you stand out a bit more to where you could be relatively kind of average at social and then when you're with a bunch of pariahs then you seem a lot better but maybe putting Kenzie on a more normal season, let's say a non-Gabon-esque season, maybe she doesn't stand out that much and she's just another player. But do you think then she would transcend that and she's still a really good player?
I'm going to draw well, I initiated the comparison between 46 and Gabon. I'm going to draw a distinction. Gabon has a lot more abrasive people, whereas 46, I think, had a lot more volatile people. I think a lot of the volatile players on 46 aren't like day to day that annoying. Banu, extremely volatile. Near the end, leading up to Tribal, very annoying, but day to day wasn't that annoying. Q, very volatile player, very volatile personality on the season, though he was more, I'd say, stable on 50. Though I think saying stable implies he was unstable. I don't. He wasn't unstable, just volatile, very volatile. I mean, he tried to quit the game like 6 times. Um, I, Liz Wilcox, extremely volatile. Soda, Tevin, Venus. People were mad at someone new every fucking day. And it was the type of cast where there were so many points in the season where someone has this tiny, minor social slip up, and that person is hated for it. At least by someone else. There were the map of beefs on 46 that you could draw is one extremely lengthy. If I was to draw a diagram with all the people on 46 and who has beef with who, that would be a large diagram with a lot of lines, and it would go through everyone, including Charlie, except for Kenzie. All people who, and also it's difficult for Kenzie to manage coalitions with people who hate each other, and she's able to do it because they both love her.
Okay, back to the idol thing.
I strongly believe that if you put Kenzie I remember saying it on episode 1 of 46 as I watched it. I said Kenzie's going to be the next two-time winner because it is social game is in my view the more important determinant that can lead you to a second win.
I was gonna say with the idol thing, I know with Hunter's idol, like Hunter like said that at FTC that the reason why he didn't play the idol was because of Kenzie, but I believe that idol was public. Like I don't think Venus's idol was public. I don't think Q's idol was public. So how did Kenzie get them not to play the
But
idol
all of
if he
those
didn't know
people had
about
a fake plan with Kenzie when they went home. So while
Kyle?
Kenzie may not have been conscious of the fact that her social game was in that moment, it still was.
Kyle, I feel like you should watch 46.
Good,
Kyle, I
honestly.
think, would come down on my side if he watched
And
46.
46 is actually a really good season, like not just for new era Survivor, but Survivor in general. Like
Honestly, you know what I think? I don't think I need to see 46. I think I need Kenzie to come back and then okay, so I don't know if I ever explained it to you, Oscar, but my metric for what makes a good Survivor player is you randomize a season, random cast, maybe sometimes it's a returning season, maybe
I
sometimes
know where this is going
how
to go.
often yeah, how often does that person win? That's my metric for what makes a good Survivor player. It's not one stand-up performance, it's consistency in
I'm going to
winning.
make a bold claim right now. I
Yeah.
think if you randomize 1,000 Survivor Monte Carlo simulations for every Survivor player, you randomize what era they're playing in, you randomize the cast, you randomize the format, and you do this for all 751 people who have ever played the game of Survivor. I believe that Kenzie is at least top 5 in win percentage.
That's
Interesting.
interesting. Well,
Because
too
I was
bad.
thinking the same thing for somebody like Kyle. I think Kyle is very, very skilled in all three aspects of the game to where he could probably, maybe I wouldn't claim top five, but that's even why, for me personally, just on the seasons that we have, I think Parvati is probably the best player that we've seen, just because I think she's the most consistent. And you think on average, if you did like these 100 simulated seasons, most of them would be newbie seasons. And sure, Parvati didn't win on her first time, but I think she had the capacity. And I think you're approaching it from a perspective that it's not Gen 1 Parvati every single season. It's Parvati at different stages in her life, hypothetically.
I would like, for the purposes of the simulation, you make it the same version of Parvati every time. But I agree that we're not putting Gen 1 Parvati through 1,000. Or we can, just to compare the results. I mean, if we have this technology, let's do it.
Yeah.
But I think you put Gen 3 Parvati in 1,000 times, she's winning at least 50%. Um,
Yeah.
I do bold claim, I think Tony would come up pretty high on that. That's not a bold claim. He's considered the GOAT by many. I think Tony, I think Parvati. Um,
I think Boston Rob is insanely low.
Yeah.
full agree.
Yeah.
Boston Rob would be
Boston
very
Rob
low
is
there.
overrated in my opinion. Boston Rob is
Yeah.
not as good as people say he is. I'm sorry.
I think
Boston Rob would
Sandra's
be
Sandra's
Boston Rob would
above,
be less
but
than random. 5% would be what you would expect from a random, like assuming they're all
yeah.
20% casts or less. I think he would get less than 5%.
Yeah, I think so.
I
Uh,
think the names that pop into my head who I think would be in the top 5: Parvati, Tony, Kenzie. And in this conversation, those are that's a tier to me. And the fact that
This is the great breakdown of Survivor 50 episode 6.
I know this turned into like a Charlie like Kenzie debate like halfway the
Yeah,
all
episode.
we're
right,
not even
let's get back
talking
to things.
about D.
Well, it's too
That being
bad
said,
that Kenzie will never play Survivor again because I believe she has expressed many times that she does not want to come back. And
he
I feel
has.
like the whole Charlie Kenzie thing is very like reminds me a lot of the whole Aubrey Michelle. So let me ask you about Aubrey Michelle. Do you think Michelle should have won that season? Well, she did win that season. Do you think the right person won?
So I have the annoying philosophy that many fans have that the jury is
Is never
incapable of getting it
wrong,
wrong.
and the person that won deserves to win this.
Not even that the jury's never wrong, but that if you convince the jury to be wrong in voting for you, that is a testament to your gameplay and you deserve credit for it. That isn't to say every winner deserved it, because some winners win as a result of bad production decisions, and I do think that production can be wrong. I think Chris Underwood, I think Ben Trebergen. However, I've long told people that they can rephrase their question to get a good answer from me. If you were given a vote on that jury, who would you have voted for? If you ask me that question, then you'll get the answer you're looking for. But you have to
So,
actually ask it.
so who would you have voted for if you were on the jury?
I would have, without any doubt, voted for Aubrey on the co-wrong jury. Michelle got absurdly lucky. Aubrey ran the game for the most part. Michelle, credit to her for surviving, but her survival was dependent on probably a medevac and definitely competition wins. If that medevac doesn't happen, it's reliant on her winning the same competitions she won, but just with an additional competitor for each of them. One of those times, that additional competitor is like 80-year-old Joe. I don't care. One of those times, that additional competitor is Sydney Gillen. I absolutely care. Either way, I tend to discredit people who rely on competitions for their wins. I think if you are going to rely on competitions for your to get to the end, you have to get to the end with people who did nothing. And for that reason, that's the reason why I would have voted for Sam on 47, and that's the reason I would have voted for Aubrey on 32.
Let me ask you this. When you talk about comp wins, is fire included? When you talk about comp wins?
That is an interesting question. Fire, and this is counts against Aubrey. fire is kind of included because if you win a comp where you would have otherwise gone home, the majority was against you, that counts against you pretty bad. But in 32 error rules, making fire, it's 2-2. It's a wash. It counts against you a little bit that you had to make fire, but it doesn't count against you as much. Aubrey had to make fire in 32. There was a 50% chance she was going to go home if we assume everyone has the same shot of winning the physical thing. That's bad. Michelle would have gone home if she didn't win immunity that episode. That's a 75% chance of going home. That's worse.
So I guess going back to the Kenzie Charlie argument, Charlie
Yeah, just
his
to remind
social
everybody, D is on top, and that's who we're talking
so
about.
Charlie used his social game, and as a result of his social game, despite playing a really good game and being seen as a threat, was taken to the end, you know, taken to the end of the game. Kenzie needed a fire to get to FTC. So what do you
Yeah,
have
but
to
you have to beat Liz Wilcox in fire.
It doesn't matter who it is. The point is she had to win the fire.
It kind of matters who it is.
She relied on a challenge. If we count that as a challenge, that's why I asked you.
Yeah.
Do you consider that to be a challenge?
That's
You know
fair.
what? Okay. To distract you guys from this whole debate,
I
that
feel
just
like we
sparked
could
the
do a whole
question.
podcast just debating on whether or not if
Bring
Charlie
me back
and
for
Kenzie
another
play.
episode. We'll get into this.
All right. Well, yeah, we'll do the part 2 to that. But that just made me think.
I'm
What are
sorry,
the
I
odds
have
that-
a running joke with Alex Pratt. I think enough of your viewers will know who that is. That if Survivor was as big as sports, Alex and I would be millionaires making a Stephen A. Smith style brain rot show where we yell hot takes at each other.
Alrighty, but that I know all your guys' talk about fire making made me think on 50, the odds of somebody going out to fire making again. Because who is it? It's
This is my prediction.
Oh,
okay.
okay.
Well, we can roll right into that if you
You
guys
know what?
like.
Let's just
Okay,
get
we're
into
going
it.
to
I think
Yeah.
we've debated enough, and it hasn't been about episode 6 for a while. So
We're going into predictions.
yeah,
My prediction.
basic. Hold on, we need a basic prediction and a bold prediction.
Oh, that's perfect. Okay, basic prediction: a woman's gonna win.
Oh yeah, I thought that since the cast was announced.
None of the men are well positioned enough, nor can they execute on their positioning. Rizzo's the only maybe. I think, and based on the editing, though I'm always wrong with Edgic, we haven't seen none of the men seem to have a winner's edit, and the broad editing patterns that we've seen to me suggest that a woman's gonna win. Bold prediction. I was going to phrase this as there's going to be fire making, and the person who loses fire making is going to be someone who's lost fire making in the past. But I'm going to go, that's not really bold enough. These might be the only two left, but I think that either Cirie or Rizo will lose the fire making challenge this season.
Cirie, Rizzo, Jonathan as well also lost fire making.
Okay.
I
don't think it's going to be Jonathan. I think it's going to be Cirie or Rizzo who lose the fire making challenge this season.
Oh, and Rick Devin. I just thought of
Oh, yeah. Okay. I stand by my two, Cirie and Rizzo. I think that I think they are both reliably terrible at everything enough that I don't think they're going to win Final Four immunity. And I do think if they're put in fire, they're going to lose it. I think they're both well positioned enough that it's very possible one of them's in the Final Four. That's the biggest jury threat. And I think both of them in that position would end up going home to fire. So Cirie or Rizzo are going to lose fire, and I am going to cry when it happens because I will be rooting for whichever one of them is there to win that fire making challenge. And they're going to lose.
Alrighty, I will make my basic prediction. My basic prediction. You know what? I did an immunity winner a couple episodes. I'm just going to keep going with an immunity winner until I get one right. I'm going to say this week, screw it, let's go Tiffany again, just to make it interesting. Yeah, I'm going to say Tiffany wins this week's episode or next week's episode immunity. And for my bold prediction, I'm going to go down to the number. I'm going to give you guys a vote count. So first things first, 2 people are losing their votes next episode. So we're only going to have 11 votes cast. What's the vote count we're going to get? We're going to get a 4 to 4 to 3 vote count. It's going to be pretty crazy. Actually, wait, no, 4 to 4 to 2. One person's going to play their shot in the dark. As for the revote,
wow.
Unfortunately, it's going to be a 7 to 1 or whatever it's going to be. It's going to be unanimous bar one person. That's my big, bold, beautiful fucking prediction. It's going to be genius.
If that
Okay.
happens, I'll be very impressed.
Thank you. Isaiah will give me $5 if that is
What
correct.
Well,
the heck?
Isaiah has committed to giving
I
you
did not agree
$5.
to this whole thing is being filmed. Like, come on now. I didn't say that.
You texted me it.
Okay, whatever.
I also got the DM.
Yeah.
I have a bold prediction, but I don't have what is like a regular prediction?
Come on, Isaiah. This is the easy part.
I know. Hmm.
He told me if he didn't have one, he'd give me $5. So
I did not say that.
That's
Okay,
damn. Isaiah's racking up quite the
my
tab.
boring prediction is that, or maybe this is, I'm just gonna say it anyway. We're finally gonna hear from Jimmy Fallon next episode. Christian's gonna find whatever that advantage is, and it's uh,
Oh yeah, a merge idol. We could see an
yeah,
idol
maybe
hit
a
next
merge
episode.
idol. You know, I'm just gonna say it's the merge idol, but instead of Billie Eilish coming up with how the merge idol works, it's Jimmy Fallon. So that's what I think that's my regular prediction. My bold prediction, which I hope this doesn't happen, but to be honest, it wouldn't surprise me if Survivor did something so stupid. I think for the big twist of the episode, it's gonna be like 47. Yeah, like the last like three pairs like come last in the challenge or whatever. They're not gonna lose their vote. But instead, what happens is those three pairs, so six people total, are going to go to tribal council and vote somebody out. And everybody else just does not attend that tribal council. That is the round that we get for next episode.
That
So
sounds awful.
it does, but
that
it
does
wouldn't
sound very
surprise me if
bad.
they did something like that.
Yeah, that sounds
Because if
awful,
you're
but
gonna
good
do tiny
segue.
tribal, you might as well get through with the double rounds, and that doesn't even solve the problem of fixing the double round.
Well, there's 13 people left. They can't do a double now. I mean, I guess they could because they've been doing Exile Island this season, so they could
Yeah,
exile somebody, but
yeah.
yeah.
All right. Well, speaking of having a six-person tribal council, that would be very good for the draft. And we will now move into updating the draft. Oscar, I just sent you your draft team. It is, of
Okay.
course, Michael Stallings' draft team. I want you to justify your picks. Now, it's not that difficult to justify, considering the fact that after this episode, you have the most people left standing. You still have six people on your draft team.
I
I
think
have
it's
three.
I think it's funny how you mentioned the draft because I think you like mentioned it like half an hour ago and then we never talked about it.
We'll get, okay, we got
Wow,
that. We're
Isaiah
here.
clearly has the best team.
Yeah, I think so too.
Um, wow. Okay. Well, I believe that my draft team that I picked is clearly the strongest that
It
I,
is
Michael
most
Stallings,
people.
selected.
I
And
should preface with how our draft works. For every placement, a player gets 1 point. So, for example, Genevieve got 16th place, so she got plus 9 points because she was the ninth boot. Colby, 10th place, 10 points. This episode, D,
how did you guys do the blood moon placement rule?
we went
Well,
by order of
whatever
tribal
Jeff said,
council.
like seventh person out, that they were seventh, eighth,
That's
Okay.
we're
whatever.
just gonna trust what goes to air. And then for every vote cast against a player, it's negative 1 point total. So for example, this episode, we'll break it down. Isaiah was or he had D on his team, so D got 14th place. That's plus 11 points. However, D got -7 because she got 7 votes cast against her for an overall score of +4. That's pretty good for Isaiah, who is currently in last place in the draft. Unfortunately for Isaiah, he also drafted Tiffany, who happened to get 4 votes. So Isaiah comes out of this with a net zero, and the person who is hurt the most by this episode is unfortunately me, because Coach got a singular vote. So that really sucks. I go from 11 points to 10. Stallings, you remain at second place with -3, and Isaiah continues to sit in last place with -5. Better than last week,
And
though.
you don't get the points until the person goes home. So there's many points that I'm guaranteed to get.
Yes, that's the thing is that you really want the end gamers. And right now, for how it's looking, realistically, it's worse for you to get this. It's worse for you to have drafted the second highest vote getter at every tribal council because then they didn't go home. You didn't get the points for them. You just
you're
get the negative
eventually
points from
going to
them
get
getting
those
votes.
but they're going to be
You
able
will
to
Yeah.
eventually, but not equivalent because you're only gaining 1 point around, but for every round that somebody makes it. So if somebody's getting 5 votes every single tribal council until they go home at the final 10, that's really bad for you.
Oftentimes one of among the better players on a season ends up racking up a lot of votes throughout it. So I
Fingers
can see
crossed it's not Poe.
Having now knowing the rules of this draft, I can unironically and genuinely say Stallings, I am clearly in the best position. I think that Cirie, Chrissy, Christian, Devins, Emily, all of them are positioned well to go far. I think that Joe, Cirie, Chrissy, and Emily are all not going to get a ton of votes. I think it's most likely that they might get one or two votes as strays, and then they'll get votes in the episode where they go home. Cirie is like famous for almost never getting votes. Yeah, the rules of this clearly favor me. I'm thinking you guys. You guys are frauds. And I have a lot of unrecognized points that are potential, that are guaranteed when these players go home. I will get those points. How many points did Dee get for replacement? Ignoring the
She got
voting, but
plus
she got
11.
how many points for the placement?
She was 11th person voted
Plus
out, so
11.
11 points.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 players that have will all get 12 or more points for their placement. 12 or more. 6 times 12. What's that? Kyle,
I have no
what is
idea.
that? 6 times 12 for smart. Figure it out.
It's
Doing 72. That is
math
70
right now.
points.
Doing the math in my head right now. 6 times
He's looking
72.
down at his phone.
72.
He's so smart. He's so smart.
I'm not. You can see
There's
there's no apps on my phone. I just have Instagram open.
In the bank. 72 points in the bank. I can count on those.
Yeah. You guys are doing well. Admittedly, the only other thing I should have mentioned is that for every jury vote a player gets, that is also plus 1 point. So if you get the winner and they win by a lot, that's a nice little bonus for you. But really, it just matters that you get a lot of end gamers who go home with minimal votes against them.
I think that with Rizo and Aubrey, both of whom are the people who I think are best well positioned, I don't think there's anyone on my team that I'm confident could make it to the end and get jury votes. Cirie won't make it to the end. Chrissy, if she does, won't get votes. Christian won't make it to the end. Devins won't make it to the end. Emily won't make it to the end. So I think that makes me question whether or not I'm going to win. But is there any sort of wager on this? Like if Stallings wins,
Isaiah will give the winner $5.
No.
Yeah, I feel good about my draft. I don't know how this episode obviously favors me in the draft a little bit because Isaiah loses a player. Isaiah gets a lot of votes and points against him. And Kyle, you're not really a threat. You only have 3 players left.
Oh, I'm doing well technically. I'm gonna enjoy my lead while I have it because I'm not gonna have it forever.
You have the lead unless we count the points that are guaranteed to be scored.
Just going episode by episode. I am winning, and I'm going to enjoy it while it lasts because it is not going to last.
Me or Isaiah are going to win. This episode being fucking terrible for Isaiah makes me very happy.
That's good. All righty. Well, I think that's about it. We've covered everything we needed to cover and then some. So,
quite a bit extra. It's been a pleasure. Thank you to all the viewers. I'm looking forward to watching this as I watch every episode. So.
You're going to be like critiquing Isaiah's argument afterwards. You're going to be like, Isaiah's going to be like, well, that's a stupid fucking point when he's talking about Kenzie and Charlie. You're going to be like, oh, that's a stupid point. You're going to be debating with your own TV.
I mean, yeah, I do put this on and I watch this every single day, and I argue with the computer. So
that's good. That's going to increase our engagement.
I'm a huge fan of the pod, and anyone listening should know. Anyone listening should know that if you are a fan of the pod, you are like me, so you should keep watching.
You are Peter Parker, our viewers out there.
I also want to give a big thank you to our sponsors at NordVPN.
Thank you.
And
thank you.
Raid Shadow Legends.
Thank you. Yeah, we wish we had
Have a good day. Good night.
Thank you.
All right.